Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
All right. Welcome to Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Not much, Andrew. What's going on with you?
Just hanging out here. No thunderstorms. No nothing. Just a normal summer night.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And it's a normal summer night here, too. So I'm hiding in the house under a fan next to the air conditioning duct.
Yeah, I believe it.
I would like to start this episode again with a frustration / not serious anger at our friends over at a different podcast, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I don't know if you're caught up on another Pointless Automotive podcast, but we 3 weeks ago did an episode about $10,000 under cheap cars.
Yes.
And then us and them had a conversation regarding Polar Seltzer, and there was a couple of memes sent back and forth. Well, they went ahead and did an episode with $5,000 cars, completely taking my idea of what we're going to do next was a $5,000 car episode, but they went ahead and did it. So I would just like to say, get your own ideas, boys. Those are ours. That's all.
I mean, we could also do it.
We can still do it, for sure. It was just, I was listening, I was like, hey, that was supposed to be what I was going to do next. But obviously we didn't say it out loud, and we can't claim any rights to an idea, and an idea is an idea, and they're basically California us, so we'll let it slide. But nonetheless, I'm angry a bit, but not really. We still like it. Anyway, that's all. I just wanted to get it out there. It's on my chest, burning for at least a week and a half, because we didn't record last week because we were on holiday for the holiday, and we didn't get to express that. Yeah. Well, you were on actual holiday. You took a vacation. I did not. I worked.
I did take a vacation. Yep.
I had my one day of Thursday off. We didn't even get Friday off, and I spent most of my day just calming down my dog. So
yeah,
she's not a fan of the boom. Put it that way.
Nope.
And the boom here in Arizona is 100% legal, and it's everywhere. So we don't celebrate the 4th of July. We celebrate June 30th through July 10th is what happens around here, it seems. So anyway, that's what went down around here. But you were away, so no episode recorded. I was here, and nobody wants to hear me rant by myself for an hour, so I did not.
No.
Thank you for agreeing so quickly.
Yeah, we were we were up in New Hampshire, and one of the days we were coming back. I don't know why people can't move over for emergency vehicles that are on the side of the road. It's a law in most states.
I think all states.
Usually, huh?
I think all states.
I'm not sure if it's all states. I know it's in a lot of states. And you should just do it anyways, whether it's the law or not. Because, I nearly watched an Altima kill a tow truck driver. So they literally did not slow down, did not move over, like drove under the door as the guy opened the door on his truck
Nice.
and stepped out.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
according to Google's new AI overview, which
Yeah.
however you want to
Great.
understand that or not, that's a whole episode topic if we wanted to go into that. All 50 states and Washington, D.C. have move over laws that require drivers to slow down or change lanes.
Yeah.
So
Just do that.
yeah,
And if
and
you can't
actually
move over, then you slow way down. Like,
to confirm the Google AI, the NHTSA site says all 50 states have move over laws. So yeah, get out of the way.
okay.
Also, get out of the left lane where you're not going faster than everybody else. But more importantly, move over out of emergency vehicles. Not even just emergency vehicles. If you see a car on the side of the road, move over.
Yeah, I move over anyways because
Yeah. Regardless of what it is.
I don't know what's going on with that car. I'll just move over. And, whatever. It's like, usually there's enough room that you can move over.
Usually,
And if
or
there's
you
not
can
that much,
just
if there's
slow
so
down.
much traffic that you can't do it, then usually you're going so slow that it doesn't matter.
Yep. And if you can't move over, then slow down at the bare
Yeah.
minimum. Just pay attention. I'll never forget probably 2001 or two, very, early internet forum days. There was a very well-known forum member in the Volkswagen community who was changing a tire on the side of the road in his Beetle in like North Carolina and was killed by a passing driver. And it's always stuck with me since then, just because this was a person who was at the time the same age as me and just driving his vintage car out on a weekend and had a problem, got a flat tire, and because somebody wasn't paying attention, he's no longer with us.
Yep.
So that has always stuck with me, and I've always thought about that, and I'm sure I would think about it anyway because I'm a normal common sense driver, but that particular moment in time has been frozen in my brain since then, and I've always moved out of the way. 100%.
Yeah. Not to be such a downer. It's just like an annoying thing that, people do.
No, it's a very annoying thing. And, I'm sure that most of our listeners probably do move out of the way because we're car enthusiasts. We're more aware of cars and car laws and common sense. We're not, the so-called NPC in traffic, right? We're just moving along through our day, chatting on our cell phone, watching YouTube videos and TikToks while we drive and crash into tow trucks. Like, that's not our listener, more than likely. But unfortunately, there's so many of them out there. It's crazy. I actually ran into a friend in traffic the other day.
Oh, really? You ran right into him?
Didn't run into him, no. But I had to I was driving my work car, which he did not know I even would ever be in. And it was funny, speaking of NPCs, because I had to do wacky waving arm man out the window to get attention because I'm driving a silver Camry. So I look like an NPC, but at least I move out of the way. So, yeah. Anyway. Such a bummer, Andrew. How are you going to bring it back from that?
I don't know. I went to the Marblehead Cruisin'
Okay.
Tuesday night. That was fun. Weather's been pretty nice here, so it was a nice night to go out when it was down. Took the G20 over there. Haven't really driven that too much, just kind of around town. My car's great.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't need anything, which is cool. Washed it shined right up. It's very satisfying. it just drives.
Every
I
time
haven't had
I've
time to
driven
do
it,
track
I've
days
fallen
with
in
it,
love
but
so
it is what it is. I took Marco over. It's like, even though it was 90 degrees out, that cruising is down by the water, so it was nice and cool.
yeah, it's literally a beach parking lot, so it doesn't get any closer than that.
No. But yeah, it's funny. It's like real vintage Land Rover heavy. The organizers into that group. So a lot of those guys show up.
Which is
But
fine.
there's,
It's also very Marblehead.
Yeah. There's a couple FJs, early FJs, and there's a Bronco, early Bronco. There's some other stuff. It's pretty cool.
So it's very like vintage SUV heavy.
Yeah. There's a gray E30 M3 that must be the same one that I would see around between Salem and Marblehead like 20 years ago. It has to be.
More than likely. Yeah. The owner of that one lived out on Marblehead Neck. So that would
Okay.
make sense if it goes to that show, because that show is at the Causeway, which goes
Yeah.
to Marblehead Neck. So
Yeah, it's probably
remember the car well.
it probably is the same car. That was a $8,000 car at one point, and now it's like $100,000 car.
When we were in car buying age and had money to afford them, we just didn't. They weren't on our radar. Yeah, they were $8,000, $9,000.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it is crazy.
Crazy to think about.
But anyway, that's a cool show. I like going over there. I think I'll try to take the Galant next time. I let Marco pick, and he was like, "I want to take the green car." Okay, we'll take the green car.
It's a movement from when he wanted to take the truck to everything. So
yeah. Well, I offered the choice of the green car or the white car. So
the truck wasn't an option.
the truck wasn't an option.
Okay.
Plus, we used it the other day to get ice cream.
Did the truck go last time?
It did go last time.
Okay, so you're all right then. You've raised this kid to be a real elitist. He gets to pick out what kind of car he wants to ride in.
Yeah. So that was really cool. I'm trying to think of what else. There's not like I actually haven't done any project car stuff. So I don't know.
Well, you've been real busy with Project House stuff, so it's kind of taken away from your car stuff. It's kind of the same boat I'm in right now. Like my yard is in chaos because I'm building the garage, so I don't have like time and space to work on things right now. Everything's just kind of jammed in the corner.
Well, how's the garage going?
There's been no movement since last we recorded. I don't think. I had the cement
I had the
poured.
pad.
Oh, okay.
The pad board.
Then I have a cement pad.
Hmm.
So it's pretty fancy. It's ready to build on. We're actually waiting to hear back from the builder now. The gentleman who poured the slab said that it was ready to build on anytime this week. So we're just waiting for our prefab stuff to get finished and get it over here so it can get put up. It should be up once it comes here. It should only be a day and a half to put the whole unit together. So the pad is poured. It's 3,000 PSI with a 12-inch footer the whole way around. And then the surface is at minimum 4 inches of concrete. Some places closer to 6. And it's dug a little bit deeper where I'm going to be putting the 2-post lift. So I don't have to do any modifications to put in a lift. So that's a bonus. It is fiber reinforced concrete, also with rebar, so it's not going anywhere. And that 3,000 PSI, I guess, over time hardens, and it's like the equivalent of, with the fiber reinforced, becomes the equivalent of like 6,000 PSI concrete. So it's like you could put, a tower on top of this thing. So I'm pretty stoked on that. So the prefab's going to be here. I mean, we haven't heard yet, so I'm hoping next week, fingers crossed. I mean, we're literally waiting on them. We can't do anything else until they come. So that needs to happen. I deleted the doors from the prefab, so it won't have doors on it when they're done, because I want to put in high clearance doors so that I can have lifts and they won't make that 90-degree or turn at the top of the door opening and turn into the lifts. So they're going to have like a much more shallow angle. So as you open the door, it kind of goes up along the wall instead of folding into the roof, the ceiling space. So that's going to be an additional cost and time before it's done. But we can't do anything until we have the actual building here. So I'm like starting to get antsy. Big slab out back. The dog is finally walked on it though, so she's happy with it now. She wouldn't go near it for a while, but now that it's off gassed enough, she goes on top of it. Figured it had to be what it was. It must have been a smell issue. But yeah, they came down. They finished doing the demolition that we couldn't quite finish with their really big really big Bobcat with a jackhammer attachment.
Oh, that was the trick. You had to put the jackhammer on the Bobcat.
And have it weigh a lot more than humans controlling it and have down pressure from hydraulics.
Yeah.
It was wild to watch it. It made short work of everything. And then the craziest thing about the whole scenario was that I was wondering how he was going to get the concrete slab parts out because the Bobcat had that attachment in the front and not like a tractor attachment.
Yeah.
The guy is so good with his Bobcat that he drills hits it with the jackhammer attachment, puts the jackhammer under the edge of the concrete, lifts the concrete, drives the Bobcat forward, and then balances a 6x5 6-inch deep piece of concrete on the jackhammer and drives 100 feet backwards out of the driveway, lifts the arm with the concrete balanced on it. I mean, it had to be at least 12 feet into the back of the dump truck. Like, I wouldn't even think you would be able to do that legally. Like, it just seems so sketchy. Like, if that had fallen off at any point, it would have gone through my garage. It would have knocked down the block wall between my house and the neighbor's house. If it would fallen from 12 feet when he's putting it in the back of his dump truck, it would have hit the pavement in the street and destroyed the street. But he was confident enough to balance this thing on the jackhammer attachment, which is no more than 10 inches wide. Insanity. But I guess that's what you do if you do it every day, right? And I won't say
I'm not sure.
I won't say the name of the concrete company out loud because that's probably not legal.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the proper use of the jackhammer, but whatever works.
My guess is that it's not, and I don't care because it's done. And I didn't see him do it the first time. I saw him do it the second time, and I was like, "Man, that is impressive." So we did all influencer style. We have a stop motion video of it happening, so I can get that uploaded somewhere at some point. So put the GoPro on the roof of the porch and just had it do a stop motion's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. A photo every 3 seconds, whatever you call that. Time lapse. There you go.
There you go.
Stop motion implies that a clay man did my cement work, but
it was an animation.
Yeah. Not stop motion. It was a time lapse. So a time lapse of that being done, and then of the concrete being poured, and then we'll have another one of the actual building going up. So pretty neat stuff. But yeah, I don't have much of an update other than I have a cement pad. They did cut a little, like a tiny little ramp on the front where the doors are, so that there'll be a little bit of a down right there. But yeah, that's where I'm at. We're not going to have a full driveway when it's done. We're just going to backfill with some crushed stone and whatnot for a while until we financially recovered from building the garage to have a driveway poured because it's expensive. I don't know what concrete cost in New England is right now, but it's not cheap out here.
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, don't, because it's expensive. That's the part of the reason we don't have a driveway yet, because the 720 square foot pad itself was mid-teens. So
it wasn't like it was so much more expensive as just those extra few feet.
Yes. Because more than a few feet, it's almost the same space again that we're going to have done. And it's going to be a different style, so it would have required a different truck and different. It would have been a lot more work, and yeah, it would cost us probably another $10,000 to do it at the same time. So
they couldn't just patch it in.
If you saw the situation we're working with, it's not really a patch it in situation.
Weird.
Yeah, we're paving a large area, and it's going to require work. That's all. It's going to require more excavating, more digging. We're not ready for it, and it put the garage out of budget. So crushed stone is going to be. We still have driveway to almost the garage, and then we're just gonna have crushed stone for the foreseeable future for a little bit. But it is what it is. Everything's expensive, and when it comes down to it, I'd rather have a garage with some crushed stone than not have a garage at all. So it's how it had to work right now. Anyway, yeah, concrete's expensive. So if you need concrete, shop around, because the first quote we got was almost $30,000.
Oh
so,
boy.
Yeah. Yep. So, and then there were quotes that were maybe less, but this was the best budget plus trusted vendor. So, and it's who the prefab guys use a lot. So they that also was a selling factor. But anyway, yeah, we're getting close. I mean, when the garage goes up, it doesn't mean we're done. There's a lot of stuff has to be done before cars can go in the garage. So, like, I'm going to run all the electrical, or I shouldn't say we're going to run all the electrical, save for the actual electrical box itself. We'll have that done by a licensed electrician so that it can be all inspected and cleared and good, and then they can double check the rest of our work while they're there. And then we're going to do all the installation and drywall as well before we even start putting cars in it. Because as you know from your garage, when your dad built a garage, you start putting things in it before you put the drywall up. Then it becomes a huge pain to put the drywall up because everything's going to come back out of it again. So we're going to try to get as much done as possible before we start putting cars inside. So that electricity, drywall, and the floors epoxied will be done before anything else is done. So, but yeah, we're getting somewhere. We're just not there yet. So stay tuned for more pictures and updates. I haven't even posted any pictures of what's going on yet because I'm kind of like waiting. I want to make sure everything's done, and then I might put a picture up. But who knows? It's exciting, but it's definitely taking away from both the budget of money and time for playing with car projects right now. So everything's just kind of sitting. I do need to finish putting the Mercor back together so I can officially put that on the market too. And there may be some other cars moving here in the next week or so. There's potential for another car to be gone next week. So there's definitely some changes afoot. So that's my project car stuff. There is no project car.
Okay. What did you take apart in the Mercure?
I didn't take apart anything in the Mercor. It's broken.
What broke on it?
This time? So the power steering is evacuating all its fluid every time you turn the steering wheel. So I haven't even dug into it to figure out what it is yet. But it's a high pressure line, and it just pisses all the fluid out within seconds of driving the car. So that's one thing. Another thing is that something is interesting in the wiring of the car, because now when I turn the headlights on, the turn signals turn on with the headlights and just stay on. And they're not supposed to either. Yeah. Oh, and the speedometer cable broke.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could sell it as is right now if somebody wants a project, but they're not getting a discount, so I got to fix it. If somebody wants a project and wants to pay full price, they can buy it from me right now. But yeah. I need to fix those things. And I stopped driving it because the speedometer cable broke, and I don't want to falsely add miles. So I don't want to become a TMU car. So I'm literally not using it. And then by not using it, other things went down. So I think I know what's wrong with the wiring. I think it's in the aftermarket radio. I think that the dimmer wire is backfeeding back into the harness because I think it was put in wrong. After talking to somebody about it, that seems to be a common occurrence. So hopefully that's a very simple one. It's also causing the battery to drain. So speedometer cable I haven't even looked at, power steering I haven't even looked at, but yeah, it's just frustrating stuff. It's everybody talks about those cars as being like neat in concept, but kind of a pain to own. And as somebody who's owned multiple Starions over the years, which have the same reputation, and Eclipses and Talons that have the same reputation, I was like, how bad can it be? So, that bad. And then before I sell it, I'm probably going to do a timing belt water pump as well, just because it's due time-wise, and it will help market the car a bit. It's a non-interference engine, so it's not the end of the world if it does break. But I think that if I just have that, it's a single overhead cam car, so it's not a difficult timing belt to do. And I think if I just have that extra line in my for sale, it makes it a little bit more appealing to somebody. Much more so than fresh speedometer cable.
Yeah.
Fresh power steering line, fresh speedometer cable, fresh wiring in the radio, and timing belt and water pump are done. So, and fresh fuel pump and fresh whatever else I've done to that car since I've had it. Fresh everything. But that's where we're at. I haven't even driven a car in probably 2 weeks, other than my work car. So that's how non-project car life it's been here. There's the Sapporo and the Cressida are in the front garage. They're accessible. The Eclipse and the 944 are in the driveway. They're accessible. So I could drive them. I haven't had a reason to. There hasn't been any events happening, and I haven't done anything. So there we're at. The one event that is moving right along is the Arizona Rising Sun Rally. We're putting more and more stuff together with that. So we have a couple of sponsors on board that will be announced in the next week or so, and we're getting pretty close to full as far as cars for participating. So that's moving right along. We have some stickers and flyers. So if you're in Arizona and you're interested in doing a local car rally, kind of in the vein of a what are some of the big ones out there, like the Snowball 1000 and the other like California rallies, a much shorter version of like the Overcrest rally, just a single day kind of deal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the plan. So, but if it's the azrisingsunrally.com is the website or the Instagram, and you can find out more information at both those places and sign up if you're in Arizona and have a pre-05 Japanese car. So that's my official plug for the show.
Okay.
But yeah, no other project car stuff right now. Just life.
Yeah, there's not too much going on. The big squabble here is that Massachusetts is giving people a hard time with K vehicles.
Not so K vehicles.
Yeah, it seems. It's unclear if people with short digit JDM imports are being allowed to register them. Definitely not K vehicles. They released a whole thing and people got it that like if it's a certain K truck or van, they're not being allowed to be registered.
Yeah, looking at the list, they only listed off a few K trucks and vans, but they also listed off Toyota Hi-Ace and Light Ace, which are not K vehicles. In fact, they are the Japanese equivalent of a vehicle that they sold here. So it's weird that they're on the list as well. So I don't think that they even know what they're talking about, unfortunately. I know it's been talked about in a few different places. I've heard it. I've seen it, written on a few different articles online. Massachusetts is not the first either. This seems to be a shift in something that's causing this to happen. And what I don't understand and make it make sense to me is that this is not something that is brought to the people. There's no vote. There's no voice. It was just all of a sudden somebody arbitrarily decided that these aren't legal anymore.
Yes. So that's the other thing. Somebody made a Facebook group for Massachusetts owners. A lot of people have been calling and emailing representatives. They've been posting that the representatives have been fairly responsive and interested in this issue. And apparently when they've been contacting the RMV, they've not gotten very far either. And
Right.
the concern is that this was not legislated. There's no law that says you can't.
In fact, there's a
register
law
these
that says you
vehicles.
can.
Well, yes, there's federal laws that say they're exempt from. The argument is that it's that I can't remember the name of the insurance thing.
FVMSS.
No, ACH or something. It's some association of insurance companies or something.
Okay.
Their guidance, right? That's the same guidance that Rhode Island was given.
Okay. And probably Maine.
Yeah. I'm really. It's annoying that I'm blanking on it. It's like a something, but it's just like it's like a lobbying group or something, or an association for insurance companies of like best practices. And like best practices is to not register these vehicles because they are unsafe. They do not meet federal motor vehicle safety standards for the time when they were built because they didn't have them. But there are federal laws that say vehicles older than 25 years are exempt. Now, of course, registration is up to each state, and the registry does have the right to not register a vehicle. But I think the expectation is that people are like, well, then that should be written down as a law and not just up to the interpretation of the RMV,
Correct.
at least in Massachusetts. Because they're just saying, and it's funny because when they're talking about people are having a hard time with short VINs, I'm thinking back to when I was registering the Volvo. She also had some trouble. She was doing something. It took her a while to like figure it out, even without me asking for the plates, because it has a short VIN. And it's like, is their system not set up for short VINs? People just don't understand short VINs. Like, it's weird, right?
Yeah, it's very weird. It's definitely set up for 17-digit vids only. You know, it wasn't set up thinking about classic cars. And what I remember when I lived in Massachusetts was that they just added a bunch of zeros in the computer.
Yeah.
And it worked just fine. And it was never a problem. Because any car built before 1981 is going to have a short VIN. The standardized VIN wasn't until 80, maybe 80. I could be off by a year. I apologize if I am. But either 1980 or 1981 was the first year of the standardized 17-digit VIN.
Yes.
And any car built before that is not going to have it. And there's no standardization to it at all. It could be 5 to 12 digits, depending on what year and what manufacturer it was, and what country it came from, and all kinds of different things. And that standardized VIN wasn't a international standard. It was an American standard.
Right.
So this is why the issue is arising with these 90s cars or 90s K trucks in this case that have non-standard VINs.
It's interesting. I don't think it's something that we all considered or even was on anybody's radar when all these vehicles became legal to import. Like, you know, we just thought like, oh, cool, it's legal to import. Do all the paperwork, you go to the registry, get your plates, and you have a cool car that you've always wanted, a JDM import. So
sure, why would we even think about it? Because the law was always written, and it's been since 1980 something that once the car hits 25 years old, it's exempt from any rules and it can be driven. Done. Over. Forget about it. That's it. That's the law. That's what it's always been. There's never been an issue, and there hasn't been an issue until all of a sudden these little K trucks started becoming popular. So what is it about the K trucks that made them?
I don't know.
Pin here.
I don't know. The other thing that people are trying to figure out and they can't get the information is like how many of these are even registered in Massachusetts.
Right.
Like there's got to be less than 200. I'm guessing there's definitely less than 1,000. There's maybe 200 of these trucks running around.
Sure.
So people are like, well, what is the evidence that these
even
are
if there
more
are
dangerous
1,000
than anything else?
Yeah, even if there are 1,000, how many motorcycles are running around Massachusetts? And
That's the thing.
there's and I hate to be the guy to bring up the classic car argument because I don't want to jeopardize classic car ownership or drivability, but a 1997 Subaru Sandbar K truck is acres more safe than a 1914 Model T, excuse me. And I'm not trying to say that because I don't want them to be like, oh, fine, we'll ban Model Ts too, because I don't want that. Obviously, that's the wrong argument to make. But the use case is similar. Most people aren't buying a K truck to drive every day, and if they are, it's the same percentage that are driving a 1930s car every day.
Well, yeah, that's what doesn't make sense. Is you've got all these old classic cars that are no more safe, but it's fine because they were sold here, so they're grandfathered in.
Sure,
but it's only if you bring in European cars, it doesn't seem like it's a problem, but it only seems like it's a problem with Japanese stuff. So it's like, what's going on there?
It's funny. I have the perfect car to test a theory there in Massachusetts, but I don't live there anymore, so I won't. But because I have a Japanese car that was imported from Germany, I wonder if that would cause a red flag.
That car has a full VIN, though, doesn't it?
But it's not an American VIN. It would not come up in the system.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a German VIN. Now, that's the other thing, too, is that I think that German sold cars in the 80s and 90s had that standardized, maybe not the same standard, but they had a 17-digit VIN. So,
yeah,
because both my 944 and my Eclipse are originally European sold vehicles that were imported here at some point, and they both have 17-digit VINs. Neither VIN comes up in any kind of system here. Like the MVD here in Arizona was like, this VIN doesn't come up. I'm like, well, here's a picture of it. It is what it is. And they put it through, but I'd be curious to see how that worked in Massachusetts.
Yeah, because a lot of them just have like, if the VIN doesn't come up with the system, then they just have like a VIN inspection, and you like bring it there, and somebody looks at it. Yeah, this is a real car. This is the VIN.
It's not stolen.
I mean, that's also annoying, but it's like, I don't know, that sort of talking about this, I think in general, and I need to like organize myself on this and like write it all down and probably talk to some of those people in the group, but it makes in the K truck or the group, but it would make sense to me that, or talk to my representative, that Massachusetts sort of needs a revamp on some registration laws for classic and, antique vehicles in general.
Sure.
Because they feel like they were written probably in the 50s.
They were.
Because like the only plates you can get are an antique plate, which antique feels like real old. Maybe update them to like a classic car plate or something.
I like what we have here in Arizona. We have historic vehicle.
Yeah, because there's no benefit. A lot of people don't even have antique plates.
No, because there's more disadvantages to advantages.
Yeah,
they cost more money because they have to be renewed every year. They're not
Yep.
a 2-year plate, and it's the same
Right.
cost. Plus, you pay extra every year.
Yep.
You're restricted to use. You can't drive the car. So technically, you can only drive the car to a car show, a club-sponsored car show, a club-sponsored like event, or a parade. Those are the only times you can drive the car.
And I believe the original reason why these existed was to signal to your insurance company that you were not going to drive this car every day, and they would give you a discounted rate. But this was before insurance companies that specialized in classic cars existed. Am I explaining that correctly? Am I understanding that right, you think?
That's a theory. I do not know. I wasn't there in 1955
when
they invented these plates.
It makes sense, right? Because that the reason why you get reduced insurance rates usually on classic cars through specialty people like Haggerty is that you're not driving the car every single day.
Yeah, in fact, they won't let you own the car they won't let you have a Haggerty policy unless you have a standard vehicle in your name, a standard regular car policy with a different insurance company.
Yes, because the reason why your risk is reduced is because you're not using the car every day, so they can lower the premiums.
Correct.
So that, I think, is the reason why you would get an antique plate back in the day before you had this option of less expensive insurance.
I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, the theory being out there that in order to have classic car insurance, you needed to have an antique plate. That has changed, I think, or if that was ever not even the actual law and just information I was given at the time.
Yeah, but you can just use regular plates, and
you should.
Yeah, because there's no benefit. So that's the thing. They should update the laws so that, because like a lot of people just make it in line with what the insurance company allows you to do, which is drive, a couple times a week. You go to a cruise night, a cars and coffee, go get ice cream. You're allowed to take it to work like once a week. That's the way it should be. And they should be like classic car plates. And, maybe you do have
mileage restriction.
There's no mileage restriction, right? It shouldn't be like that.
I don't mind there being a mileage restriction.
Sure.
Or I guess that's tough because you take a road trip, you could screw everything up.
Yeah,
all right,
but
scratch that.
It should be like, maybe you can do an inspection every 2 years or something. Because at least we have rolling here in Massachusetts. We have rolling emissions for 15 years, so all classic cars are out of that. You don't have to worry about emissions.
Emissions here is the main advantage to our historic vehicle plates.
Yeah, because you have so many. You have so many old cars.
Actually, they're not even. Actually, that's not even true anymore here because the historic vehicle plates don't do anything. It's the insurance that does it. So it's also much like there. It's not even a thing anymore. So you need to have historic insurance, like a Haggerty or Grundy policy. You're exempt from emissions, but your plates don't do it. So there's no advantage here to the plates either. And they also cost more. They just look pretty. At least we have that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And you could maybe you make, if they are listed as limited use and they can't be used every day, maybe that's what you give to the people that want to register K vehicles. Way they're not driving them daily. I don't know.
That's also fine.
There's just there's ways to work around this that makes everybody happy. I don't understand just banning, rejecting registrations, because that is, in my mind, that is revenue for the state that this government office is refusing.
On top of that, these are vehicles that were purchased legally under the guise of being legal with no rule written against it. And you followed all of the rules, and now
federal rules.
Even Massachusetts, there's no written rules that you couldn't do it in Massachusetts. They just followed the federal rules, and they've always done that. So you did this 100% legally, and you spent, in the case of a K truck, it's a little less. What, $5,000-$6,000 for a K truck, say, for an average K truck?
Yeah.
And God forbid they start doing this to other import cars, and you get somebody with $150,000, $500,000 R34 GTR. But you purchased this vehicle for $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000 or whatever you paid for the car under the guise of, I'm doing this legally. There should be no issue. Now the state goes, sorry, it's no longer illegal. We can't register it anymore. And now they've taken your vehicle that you purchased and paid them tax on. Now you can't use it. And you can't do anything with it because you can't sell it to somebody else in town. You can only sell it out of state. And then somebody out of state's got to be like, well, if Massachusetts made it illegal, why am I going to buy it in New Hampshire? They might make it illegal here too. So you're actually, from the economic standpoint, you're hurting a lot of people as well. And I don't know about you, $5,000, while not an exorbitant amount of money, is not like money that if it just fell out of my pocket, I wouldn't be upset. Like, you can't lose that $5,000. That's huge. And if I purchase something under legal law,
Yeah.
I'd
I
be
mean,
pissed if it was made illegal.
I see like 2K trucks around. Like, I think there's one in Peabody and there's one in Salem.
And there are
Or
hundreds
actually-
of thousands of people, and there's 2 of them.
Yeah. There's one that goes to the Marblehead Cruise and then has a dump body on it. So that's one of them. And then I think the Salem one is the one I see that drives by my house.
He's a Honda enthusiast that owns the other one.
Yeah, it's like
Honda's in his yard.
how many are really around? Like, it's
Right.
weird.
Right, and that's like I said. And at the end of the day, what is the danger? There is no danger to the general public. The only danger is, if you want to even use the danger is the reason, the only danger is to the owner who's making the choice.
But even if you wanted to say they can't go on the highway, okay, you can still register them, but then you need to make a law that says they can't go on the highway so that when a police officer sees you, they can write you a ticket.
Yeah, you can go on roads that are 55 or under.
Yeah.
But even then, that doesn't make any sense either, because the vehicles do highway speeds.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, listen, I'll go back to the motorcycle argument and use my motorcycle in particular. My motorcycle does 65 miles an hour.
Yeah.
70 downhill. That's about the same speed as a K truck. There is no, and that is you can buy one brand new at a dealership right now. And nobody is saying that is too slow for public use and it's too dangerous for public use. It's totally legal for me to buy that vehicle.
The minimum,
because I have one.
The minimum speed on highways is 45 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
You have to be in the right lane.
I can see not owning one and living in like Montana where it's 85 miles an hour. That's different.
What's the minimum speed though?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to be an 85 mile an hour speed limit road, I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe I would. Who knows? I drive my Colt around. That's not very fast either.
I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm hopeful people are successful. I need to look into some other stuff.
It's tough being where you're standing, where you're in a position where you live in that state, and the outcome concerns you because you never know what you might want to do in the future. But at the current time, you don't own one or have any vested interest in it, so it's hard to like make an argument.
I do have a vested interest in it though, because you could easily turn around and say that the Volvo I bought is not able to be registered anymore.
Right.
Because it's too old and it can't drive fast enough.
Yeah, that would be frustrating too.
Or you bought it out of state and it has we can't figure this out. But it's also frustrating because it's not the same-ish, but I've talked about how it doesn't seem like the RMV knows their own rules. It couldn't even get the year manufacturer plates for it because they just didn't understand the rules that I was showing them right in front of them that they didn't even want to read. That were right in front of them that I was holding.
That's a quality of employee problem right there.
But that's the other thing too. If it's an issue with people not understanding how to register them at the registry, then give people a certain branch that they have to go to, or it's an appointment only thing. I mean, yeah, it's a little more of a pain in the butt, but I guess that's the sacrifice you'd have to make to have one of these cars. It's a little bit more work, but it should still be possible.
Sure. And that's a totally reasonable thing to say. Yeah, you can't just go down there and register it normally. You need to have I know here in Phoenix we have what they call level 2 inspections.
Yeah.
Which means you have to have, a DPS officer look at the vehicle, and it's kind of like a VIN inspection. I think it's called level 2. I haven't had to deal with one, thankfully, but there are certain reasons you have to do it. Like if you're trying to retitle a salvage vehicle, or you have a vehicle that for some reason doesn't have proper paperwork. If you took a bonded title, you can go to level 2 inspection.
Well, that's the other annoying thing about Massachusetts. They don't offer a temp tag before a car is registered. For you to just like a 5-day temp tag to move a car. Like that is unacceptable that it doesn't exist. So you have to do illegal things to move a car.
Yeah, there needs to be some kind of a in between scenario too, because we do have temp tags here. We have single day, 3-day, and 30-day.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest issue I have with them is there is no checks and balances on getting one. So you can get a 3-day temp tag with no insurance, which is not right. So,
well, I'm sure in Massachusetts you would still have to have insurance, which is fine.
Yeah.
But like, I got a car that has like needs a VIN inspection. How do I get it there? I got to tow it to you. Like,
yes,
just let me get
but
a temp tag.
That's the same here too. You can't get a temp tag on a car that needs a level 2.
See that? You should be able to at least get a temp tag so you can get it to them.
They want to make sure it's legal before they give a temp tag out. That is the same here.
That
like I tried to put a temp tag on a trailer, and because it had never been registered, like when I bought that brand new trailer,
yeah,
to tow my stuff out here, I applied for a temp tag, and they're like, no, it's still on bill of sale. You can't get a temp tag. It's brand new. It's never been registered anywhere. So temp tags apparently only work on vehicles that have paperwork filled out by a car dealership or already have been registered somewhere. So, which is why I had to do illegal things and borrow a friend's trailer plate.
Yeah, it's like you try to do it in a legal way, and it's like there's no way to actually do it sometimes.
Right.
We've driven plenty of cars home on plates.
No, we haven't.
I don't really do it anymore because I don't have anything to buy like that.
Also, we could just call a tow truck now.
Yeah.
Massachusetts has the rule where you can run your plates for, 7 days?
Yeah.
But technically, you have to...
That feels like a wink rule.
Well,
I don't know.
If you have the proper paperwork and you have informed your insurance company of the act and you have all the paperwork saying so, it is technically legal. But there are so many... Same thing. The understanding of the law is so up to interpretation that it just becomes tough. So I remember the statute of limitations, I'm sure, is expired now, but you and I have written fake bill of sales to each other in the past to get that 7 days of usage to move cars. Oh yeah, I sold my other car to this kid Andrew. I don't know who he is. He's bought my car. Meanwhile, you're in the car with me. But nonetheless, yeah, we've definitely done that in the past. Very long time ago, like 65 years ago, before we were even born. But whatever, it's difficult to try to do everything 100% legally because they make it so difficult. But this shouldn't.
Well,
be. These cars.
Yeah, and it's not. We should be a little more friendlier. That's what my interest would be, making it a little more friendlier to classic car enthusiasts, because there's really not that many in Massachusetts here. In the grand scheme of the population, there's not that many.
It's a very small percentage.
There's not. I see a few old cars around during the day, but you really only see them like at a cruise night or Cars and Coffee. Like they're just not out in traffic. It's just not a thing. So, making it easy to just like register and insure an old car for people, it should be a lot easier than it is. It should not be this difficult.
Nope,
because
shouldn't be at all.
They're not really driving around a lot. They're not doing a lot of pollution because most cars sit, 8 months of the year. For being honest, it's
and even the months they don't sit, they get driven 3 times a month for 6 miles.
Yeah. So it's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's like nothing.
Yeah.
Compared to all the people just sitting in traffic going to work. So
thankfully, we do have companies like Haggerty who are promoting the hobby, and organizations like SEMA that do fight for these things. So my hope is that SEMA gets in on this K car discussion and is able to throw some lawyer money behind it and see what they can make happen. Because again, I think my biggest issue with the whole thing is there has been no referendum on why we're doing this. There's been no nobody has said any reason for it other than just we're taking our ball and going home. Too bad, so sad. And it hasn't been represented by anybody. It's just that's literally the idea of one person. Did somebody from Polaris give somebody at the RMV $100,000 check and say, "Hey, ban these things because we want to sell more side by sides"? Not that side by sides are legal in Massachusetts either. So
Yeah, that's the weird thing.
yeah, we want to
and
sell more to
those-
farmers or.
Yeah, and a side by side is not any more safer than a K vehicle.
I think it's less so.
Probably.
Yeah, I think it's less so. You're fully exposed to everything.
But so yeah, that's the annoyance. That's what's going on right now. I don't know, some fun stuff. NASCAR.
Before we get there, the problem with this whole thing is that it's giving
Yeah.
me pause because for a long time I've said that I really, really, really want to buy an early Evo.
Right.
And this whole situation has now given me pause. And, I live in Arizona and it's a little bit wild, wild west to say the truth here about vehicle registrations. There's a lot less restrictions on things. You can drive a side-by-side or a quad in the street here. But once states start rolling with this, eventually will it become a national thing? And if I spend $25,000, $30,000 on a car, I'm going to be slightly mad if it just becomes illegal one day. So it's given me some serious pause to purchasing that Evo. So
Yeah, I would definitely not purchase a JDM import right now. And I'd be worried if I owned one.
yeah, my plan was to sell 2 of my cars and buy one, but now I'm going to use that money to pay off the garage. So is what it is. Anyway, yes, NASCAR. Moving on. Happy times. Chicago.
Yeah, I don't think we even talked about. I think the race before was Nashville, but
Nashville. Yeah, it was kind of it happened.
yeah, it wasn't that.
Christopher Bell,
Wasn't that
I
big a
think,
deal.
won.
Logano won.
Logano won. That's right, too. Christopher Bell won New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was an okay race.
It was an okay race. It wasn't. I don't know. Wasn't that great?
There was a rain delay
But,
there too, right? I think there was.
What's that?
There's a rain delay there as well, I think. Oh,
Yeah,
there definitely
so,
was. So I didn't actually get to watch the race because I don't usually watch the race midday. What I do is I
Nope.
record on my DVR and I watch it later. So because there was a rain delay, I extend my DVR to like an extra 3 hours just in case there's a rain delay.
Yes.
And it recorded the entire time the race was on, but for some reason the stupid networks decided to put it on a different channel at the end
Yes.
to show me Olympic qualifying. I don't want to see Olympic qualifying. That's dumb. Anyway, sorry.
It's yeah. If you need rain, schedule a NASCAR race in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. At least these past 4 weeks straight, I think.
Yes, and they're talking about rain this week in Pocono as well.
Sweet.
It's weird. So they're in Chicago for the street race. The Xfinity race on Saturday,
Absolutely.
awesome race.
Epic.
Like such a good race.
Possibly the best car race I've watched in 15 years.
Yeah. And those are in the old Gen 6 cars too. So
Yeah, solid axle, H pattern shifters,
yeah.
15-inch wheels with bubble tires.
Yeah.
So cool.
SVG and Larson were racing so hard, but like also clean. It was really, really good.
So respectful. It was like that moment when a person that you're playing like your racing simulator with and you have a really good race and you're like, yeah, this is amazing. It was like watching that in real life. It was so good watching them use each other up, but like respectfully.
Yeah.
Like they would lean
But
on
then-
each other, but not punt each other.
Yeah. But then eventually, I mean, SVG is just a master on a street course. He just drove away.
Yes, he did.
And he drove away from pretty much everyone. And even like AJ Allmendinger was trying to push real hard and then pushed too hard and went right in the wall.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
he deservedly won the Xfinity race. But you like, it's worth it to go back and just watch the highlights. They're so good.
Yeah, 100%. Such a good race.
So, Sunday rolls around. Larson's on the pole. Again, Larson, like, annoying as he can be, what a talent that he's really good at road courses.
He's a good
too.
driver, yeah. He's good at
Um,
ovals. He's good in open wheel cars. He's good in midget cars. He's good in, doesn't matter. He's a good driver.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the pole. SVG qualified like 5th. A bunch of other drivers qualified really well too. Bubba Wallace was up there because he's been practicing road coursing.
Yep. Yeah, he had a great day going.
Yep. We'll get to that. And they started late. There's a threat of rain. It looked pretty cloudy. And they were getting close. Like, it was interesting. Right. The track started out kind of wet. Or was it the second stage?
No, the first stage, it started out a little bit damp, and they allowed them to either go out on slicks or rain tires.
Right. They did like a reconnaissance lap, I think, and they kind of got to pick what they wanted.
So there was another issue because the race was about to start, and they had to push the whole thing back about 15 minutes, which changed the weather conditions a lot. Now they had to push it. They had to push it back because there were protesters on track.
Oh, I didn't know that. They didn't show that in the broadcast at all.
They did not show it in the broadcast at all. They did not want to give them any airtime at all. But there were protesters. They scaled the fences at turn 6, and they were doing a sit-in on the track. So that's why that delay happened in the beginning of the race. It wasn't because they were waiting out the weather. And that is what changed the whole course of the race, because had they gone out 15 minutes earlier, they would have all gone on slicks. But because that 15-minute wait time, the rain came in, and they all had the option of running on either slicks or rain tires, and they went, pretty much 50-50. So,
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't even know what they were protesting, but I know that protesters went on track, and 10 to 15 minutes of delay happened because of that. So,
yeah. But anyway, the first stage, also amazing. Great racing. SVG drove right to the front after a while. It was like, I was watching it. I was like, man, this is what NASCAR needed to compete with F1. A really good street course race. Like, this is so, so good. And then, once people figure out their tire stuff and the slicks were way faster, a lot of guys were really fast. Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, like, they're all running up there with SVG and Larson. And then stage 2 rolled around, and they did like a delayed kind of like, they actually did unlike last year, they actually did yellows at the end of the stages on road course.
Which I know a lot of people are anti stages and yellows and forced yellows. I like it.
Yeah, maybe not on a road course. I don't know. Or like, look at the weather. Like, they knew weather was coming in, and they like delayed the start of stage 1 or stage 2, and then it just started downpouring, right?
Downpouring.
Yeah. And now I'm trying to remember, did they make it through and stop, or they stopped in the middle of stage 2 or at the beginning?
So they had run a bunch of caution laps. So they started stage 2 in the rain. Everybody was on rain tires pretty much. It started raining really, really heavily, to the point they had to call a red flag, but they had run probably 4 or 5 laps. A yellow came out for a wreck, and then during that yellow, they decided to pull the red flag. So when they were sitting on pit lane on their rain tires, they had about 8 laps on the rain tires, maybe 4 of them at speed. So that's what they were talking about when they came back out afterwards, was that the tires were all fairly new. They only had a few laps on them. So then you could either run on those or come back in and change to dries because it was drying. So,
okay. And then I'm trying to remember at what point it was the weirdest hit. That long straight, I don't even know what turn that is. A lot of people reckon that turn. That Briscoe just tapped the back of SVG and just pushed him like a little too fast, faster than he was expecting, and he just went right in the wall. And, like, broke the car.
Briscoe missed his braking point and locked up the tires.
Yep.
And as he was sliding, he just added like 4 miles an hour to the back of SVG's car.
So bizarre.
Which was just enough to send him offline into the wet stuff and put him into the wall and annihilate the right front suspension.
It was such an unusual hit that the initial replay, they were like, wait, how did SVG get in the wall? Like, they couldn't figure it out on TV.
Looked like
and then
he
they
just
were like,
missed him, but no, he just grazed him just enough.
He, like, sped him up enough.
When you're mid turn, you're already at the, SVG is an amazing road course racer, even in the wet. He knows the limit of adhesion at all times. So he was probably already on the ragged edge of the limit of adhesion, and all it took was that little tap, and it loosened the car up, and he hit that wall hard, and he annihilated that right front suspension system.
Yeah, that was quite disappointing. I was really sad to see that,
and it was the same lap that the eventual winner also took out Bubba Wallace on that same exact lap.
Yeah,
super frustrating. No, he didn't take him out for the contention as the same, but I mean, they were top 5, and he spun him out and put him back to like 18th.
Yeah, it's weird. And then, like, they just had that super long rain delay. It was like, what? And then they like didn't know what to do. And then the race had to be shortened anyways to time limit.
We'll get to the time limit thing in a second. It was frustrating because they're like, man, we're out here, we're on rain tires, we're in a rain delay for rain. What is happening? Like, do we have rain tires? Do we race in the rain? Do we not race in the rain?
They seem to want to race on drying tracks, not wet tracks, which doesn't make sense on a road course.
No, they should have.
Because they ran last year in pretty heavy rain.
Yeah, last year there was 8 inches of rain on race day. So just run. And if people crash, people crash. I mean, they're not going fast enough to worry about it. Just let them crash.
I understand that you don't want to run like New Hampshire in a downpour. It's a very high-speed oval.
It's a high-speed oval. The track is not prepped for any kind of water. These are a street course that are driven on in all conditions: snow, rain, heat, sun, everything. The road isn't an issue. The pavement isn't an issue. They're not doing 180 miles an hour. You can't run when there are multiple inches of standing water. That's the issue. But it didn't seem like there was any more standing water on the track when they called the red flag than there was for the first 4 laps that they ran on the green. In fact, there was probably less because the rain was subsiding.
Yeah.
And then to spend 2 hours drying the track while it's actively raining is just, as a fan, is insulting.
It was like, what are they doing? Like, they really stepped on the rake. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand.
No. And also, people made a valid point too. Like, why did the race start at 4:00 in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Like, you have limited time. 4:00 in the afternoon is pretty late when you only have 3 or 4 hours of sunlight left, and it's going to be a rainy day. Why didn't the race start at 12:30 in the afternoon? It's the middle of the country. It's not the Eastern time zone or the Pacific time zone. So starting midday isn't going to affect either end. Like, there was a lot of weird stuff that went on. And, I guess at the end of the day, I don't know what the legal rules are for the race. I don't know what deals they made with Chicago. I can't even pretend to know any of that stuff. So who knows? But I think that there were better ways to have done it. And I think they should have run the race.
Yeah, it wasn't like there was a race going on before, and there wasn't a lot of stuff. It didn't seem like there was a lot of stuff going on before. Like, just run it. The weather prediction is really good now.
Yep.
They had a pretty good window. They could tell you when it's going to rain. So run the race in the few hours before that.
Yep. Well, you can't change the time of the race on race day because you have people coming from out of town that paid money for tickets. So I understand not changing the race on race day.
But you can do it the day before.
But why not schedule the race for earlier in the day as a general rule?
You should.
Yeah.
Because you can always push it back.
I could see starting a race at 4 p.m. in Boston because in the summertime, people in California are Sorry, all the time, actually. I'm thinking of Phoenix rules here, but California is 3 hours away from you. So it's, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you start at noontime, you're starting the race. You know what? Screw it. Football does it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Start it whenever. Doesn't make any sense. I mean, they're going for maybe a primetime thing. I don't know. But nonetheless, it really kind of showed some flaws in their planning, that's for sure.
It kind of ruined the race. It was like took all the momentum out of it.
It definitely did.
Like stage 1 was awesome. I was like, this is so cool. And then they were just like, all right, we gotta pause.
We're gonna park
that.
for a while.
Yeah,
at least they didn't
that's
do
too
what they
cool.
did.
Gotta stop.
At least they didn't do on TV what they did in New Hampshire, which was even more insulting to the fans, where they just started the broadcast over.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I watching the first stage again? Like, I was here already. Like, I don't need to. Don't show me this. They should have some sort of reel put together of like a historic thing or something, or like replay a race from like 1968. Like, do something cooler than just showing me stage 1 and 2 over again during the red flag. Like, there's got to be something better than that. So, or the race before that, when it got red flagged and they showed the previous week's race, like what are we doing here? Like, no, show me something cooler. Give me like either an actual vintage race or a documentary about NASCAR or something. They gotta have some kind of product to show us that's gonna keep people involved. But that's another whole story for another whole day. But I will say that they did bring a little bit of excitement back in the end by making it a timed race. I really liked how they did that. And I think that they should do a timed race as a general rule on road courses because it works. It built up a lot of excitement to the end. It changed the strategies altogether because you weren't like, I need my car to run exactly for 10 more laps. You didn't know because you didn't know how many yellows there were going to be or how many greens there were going to be or how long it was going to run for. And the way they had it so that when the driver crossed the line after the clock hit 0, that was the white flag lap and then 1 lap after that. And that was, I think, absolutely perfect. And it worked out well. So it built more excitement towards the end. And you were watching Tyler Reddick wheeling his car, trying to catch up with the guy who won. Who won? Ally number 24? Alex Bowman. Tyler Reddick was wheeling his car trying to catch up to Alex Bowman, and Alex Bowman was on rain tires, which was a cool strategy thing too. Was on rain tires, and the track was drying.
Yep.
And Tyler Reddick was on slicks and was taking full advantage of having the grip now, and was running almost 2 seconds a lap faster than Alex Bowman, and he was catching him hard until he made a little bit of a misjudgment, and I think that's turn 6 or 7. And he just scrubbed the inside wall going by, and it set him off just enough to not be able to catch him in the end. But there would have been a hell of a finish if Reddick had been able to catch up to Bowman in the end.
Yeah,
I think it would have been it would have been either Reddick would have won the race, or neither of them would have won the race. I think is what would have happened if he got there.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, it didn't quite get there. But I think that being a timed race kind of added to that excitement at the end, and I was pretty pumped until Reddick hit the wall, and I was like, all right, well, Bowman just did not run out of gas, and he can make it. So
yeah, because Joey Hand was doing well for a while too.
Yep.
That pit strategy, staying out.
Yep.
IMSA driver, so
Yep.
road course guy.
Yep.
But I don't know, they got to do better next year. Got to figure it out because people are like, oh, it shouldn't be in July because it rains. Well, I don't know. It's
Chicago, much like New
July
England,
week in
it rains
Chicago
all the
because
time.
it's a quiet week.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people probably around.
It's a low murder week in Chicago, so we're gonna bring the race here.
Yeah. But yeah, move it up. Start at noontime. Start at 2:00. Whatever.
Yeah.
Run in the rain. I don't understand.
Yeah, run in the rain. Run in the rain. Sometimes you can't run.
Get the lightning rules.
Yep. Well, if lightning
sure.
came, they'd have been screwed because it's not like an oval where you can just run out to the parking lot and then come back in. If lightning came and they had to make everybody leave the entire area, I don't think anybody would have come back. So
Yeah.
it would have been a little bit worse. But nonetheless, I think it was still a great race despite all of the stepping on their own feet. I was still very entertained. Seeing how good the Xfinity race was on Saturday means that like this race can be that good. And NASCAR needs more street courses. There are so many street courses set up in this country every single year for other race series. You know, F1 does a street course. IndyCar does multiple street courses. Just piggyback on a weekend with IndyCar. You know, that would have to be a huge, huge win for everybody, I would think. But, you know, run NASCARs at Long Beach. Run NASCARs at Detroit. Like, do something cool with the track's already there. Use it.
I know Detroit makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Run them there. But I don't know. Again, much like I don't know the deal they made with the city of Chicago, I don't know the back dealings of all this stuff. So there's got to be a reason they don't. There's got to be a reason IndyCar and NASCAR can't get along. I just don't know what it is.
Well, anyway, do we get anything else?
I picked up the Maverick.
Yeah?
Did I talk about that? I talked about how it came out crappy 2 times in a row. And I
2
told
times
the
in a
guy,
row?
Yeah, the first time I picked it up, the paintwork is terrible. We brought it back, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's all fixed." And it was terrible again. And I said,
I
"Listen,
missed that one.
oh no." So rewind a bit.
I know the first time it was like
Sanding scratches.
rushed, right?
No, it wasn't rushed. They had it for a week and a half. But they brought it
That
back,
doesn't
and
mean
it
they
had
did
like
it over the week and a half.
Yeah, it had 80 grit sanding scratches under the paint, visible through the paint. So it was like, this is gross. So we brought it back, and the only way to fix that is to strip off all the paint, go back to your bodywork, and start your bodywork fresh. And the car was done in 1 day, and we're like, there's no way. And we got it back, and it was obvious. The paint was dead. It was they just clearly sanded as deep as they could, and rebuffed it and called it a day. Which also means that after 6 months, the shine would have been gone. So I was like, absolutely not. We're not accepting this. I said, but I need to not let you guys handle it anymore. And I'm going to bring it to a shop that I know and I trust. So unfortunately, that shop was busy, and they've been busy. So it's been months. But finally, last week, they took the Maverick in to do the re-repair. So I picked it up earlier this week, and paintwork is good. The car looks good. The color is good. It's got a nice shine to it. There's no sanding scratches. Everything looked great. I picked the car up. I drove it home. Drove it the next day to go pick up. Oh, I picked up a set of wheels. I'll talk about that in a second. Drove the next day to pick up a set of wheels, and I noticed that there was a gap in the taillight against the bedside. Not the tailgate side, but the bedside. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
And I went and I looked, and I realized that the gap was huge, and I put my finger between the taillight and the bedside, and I was like, well, that's not right. And I went to the other side, and the other side wasn't as bad until I touched it, and it popped the rest of the way out. And I was like, huh, that's weird. So the way these Ford taillights are designed, they have what looks like a ball seat on the truck side, and they bolt on the tailgate side. And you have to put the ball seat in first, and it clips in place. And then you push the taillight in the rest of the way and screw it in on the tailgate side. And they didn't do it right, apparently. My guess is that they just set it in place and screwed it in place. And they probably looked fine until I drove it, and they just vibrated out a little bit. So Naomi is out of town, and I was like, hey, truck looks good except for this. I was like, I can just take it apart, and I'll put the taillights back in, and I'll put it back together, and we'll just call it a day. And then she made a valid point where she said, no, they were paid a couple of $1,000s to fix the quarter panel. We should have them fix it, because if for any reason anything in there is broken, I don't want it to be on us to have to buy any parts. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So that makes sense. So I'll have to bring it back there and have them look at it again. Unfortunately, I haven't done that yet. My plan is to do it tomorrow morning, because Naomi's coming back from out of town. I like to have her truck ready for her when she gets here. So we got to see what happened in there. Either everything's going to be fine, they'll clip in place and all is well, or they broke the seats that the little ball seat goes into, and they'll have to buy new mounting hardware for the taillights. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they just snap back in place. I really want to go out in the driveway and just do it right now, but I also understand her point of if something is broken, and God forbid the taillight's broken, I don't want to be out a few $100 because then there's no proving that we did it versus them, right? So that's where we're at. So it's almost done. Third time was almost a charm, but we're not there yet. So, and the saga is not completely over because we'll need to still bring it back to the ceramic coating guys after a couple of months to have them re-ceramic coat the freshly painted panels. So it's been a whole scenario.
Yeah. I would have just lived with the little damage there.
No, it wasn't a little damage. You mean on the initial hit?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was definitely not livable. It was right in the middle of the quarter panel. Big old dent and scratch. It was definitely not. Yeah. It wasn't like a scuff in the corner of the bumper. It was bad. It was not a livable amount of damage, that's for sure. I remember when your Volkswagen got a bump in the front when you first got it. It was like a livable amount of damage. And if that was the case, I would have said, yeah, we'll live with it. But this was not. This was...
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like the cure is worse than the disease, so...
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the disease was pretty bad in this one. So it had to be fixed. It was definitely not a live with it situation. It was a big dent in the middle of the quarter panel. It wasn't like a door ding. It was an 8-inch long gash that went all the way through the paint. So...
Because my worry is that people cannot actually fix things, so it's not worth it to have them try to fix stuff.
But thankfully, I work in the industry, and I was able to bring it to a shop that is competent, except apparently at putting taillights in. But that's not a huge issue, I don't think. The truck looks good now. So, and it looked really, really bad, Andrew. It was definitely not I'll have to pull up the original pictures and send them to you again, because you would be like, oh yeah, you're right. You wouldn't live with that. It was literally a 7 or 8 inch long gash that went all the way through the paint. It was a dent and scratch, not just a scratch. So it was ugly. In a very obvious place, like the driver's side of the car, you walk up to it, you see it every time. Yeah, it was definitely not a live with it moment. So anyway, but yeah, that's really it. I got nothing else to talk about. That is an episode of Auto Off Topic.
All right. Where can they find you, Brad?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350. Also find me on Threads at the same. And they can find both of us at Discord. Find us on our Instagram. Send us a message. Come join us on Discord.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Racenanger, and Threads, Racenanger. So, and also the podcast is on Facebook at Auto Off Topic Podcast, and also on Instagram and Threads.
Excellent.
So, yeah. As always, keep your cars analog and aim the roses.